Hi, I'm EXO, and this video is about game soundtracks. The soundtracks will be part of the Media Add-on Pack for eXoDOS version 6. It all started with one game soundtrack being uploaded to our server, and we sat around debating how to handle it. Would it be added to the extras just for that game, or would we decide to build it out into something that was more representative of all the soundtracks that had been created with the advent of the CD-ROM? So, as you can see, we decided to build it out. Currently, we have 75 soundtracks. We might sneak a few more in before version 6 releases, and more can be added all the time through the updater. Now, an important thing here is eXoDOS is about preservation. So where all possible, we have used FLAC for lossless audio. There are a few cases where we cannot find the original media, but we do have MP3 encodings, so that's what we've gone with for now. However, they are noted, and we do have our eyes open for better quality sources in the future. Now, let's go ahead and scroll through here for a moment. You're going to notice a few things. Most of these are going to be games that were released with Redbook audio, CD tracks, or had a standalone CD released either with the game or in tandem with the game. Look over here, the Blam Machine Head actually had CD tracks on the disc with the game, and it just played them through the CD player. On the other hand, let's see here, the Dig, this is the original game soundtrack that was released with the game. Here we have the background down here of it, and there's actually a 2-disc release for this one. I believe the first disc was the background music. I'm sorry, the second disc was the background music, and the first is the primary music. The Doom soundtrack is going to be remastered music from Doom. You have Duke Nukem Music to Score By. This one is kind of odd. It's covers of the music in Duke Nukem by bands. The Dune eXoDOS Spice Opera is actually incredibly hard to find a physical copy, and the author actually encouraged people to download it since the people who own the rights would not put it out. Let's go ahead and fire one up here. Use Goblins. You'll see that we filled out all the metadata. So let me roll back here. All the soundtracks are in zip file format. When you double click one of these, it loads up the zip file. This music player can read the zip file directly. We have album art here. We've gone through and added all the track numbers and the track names. Let's see here. I always love the ambiance of the Goblins games. They really set the tone of that game so well. I think it's depth. Yes, this is the creepy one. God, I love it. It brings me back a lot of memories. It's so nostalgic for me to hear it. I think Goblins was the first CD-based game I ever played. So apart from the fact that it had these like almost Wimble-type sprite-based things with tons of little hidden objects, it had this amazing soundtrack behind it. It wasn't until years later that I heard the floppy sound. And while it's excellent in its own right, this to me is the way I originally heard it. And to this day, this is one of the soundtracks I'll put on and listen to in the background. It takes me right back to solving those puzzles again. Let's go ahead and scroll down here a little bit and see what else we got in here. The Jam It CD, this was released as a promo to promote the game. I believe it's got, various artists. Nobody, I don't know, Shyheim, College Boys, Brother Kane, Gilby Clark, Cracker, or the Outthirds. Now, down here at Mortal Kombat, you'll see that we have taken some liberties in terms of we have the Mortal Kombat album, which was released alongside the game, and this was all electronic music that was not in the game. There's the Mortal Kombat movie soundtrack, the Mortal Kombat movie score. This is actually music from the arcade game. If you watch the track screen while playing Mortal Kombat 2, it would come up and say, hey, if you send $5 shipping and then $10 to this address, we'll send you the soundtrack to the game. And this is what they would have sent you had you sent that money in. As we get down, we have the Origins Volume 1, 2, and 3 soundtracks. One of my favorites here is the Sierra Soundtrack Collection. This guy here has so many cool things on it. Of course, the King's Quest fanfare. Pause that so I'm not talking over it. If you look over here, you can see mainly King's Quest V. I don't believe 6 was out yet when this was released. Oh, I'm sorry, it was. They did put Girl in the Tower on here, which is, if you haven't heard it, this is like the most cheesy ballad you can imagine. It's pretty well folktale now that they got in trouble because when they released the game, they released a list of radio stations in the box and encouraged people to call the radio stations and request this song. Radio stations didn't take kindly to that. It's clearly Sierra wanting to be Disney. And if you look at how they handled King's Quest VII, while they cheaped out on the imported animation, you can see they were going for a live action Disney movie. Had they spent more money on the animation and drawn more frames and actually done it with a better quality studio, they could have pulled it off. It's really a shame that was their last 2D King's Quest game, because I think with the right budget it could have been amazing. King's Quest VIII, I've heard rumors of. I don't think it's real. Wow. It's almost like they got Meatloaf to write it. You know, they said, we need the cheesiest love song. Now, if we go back, though, this is also at the height of Disney with their Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Lion King. You know, they had really big, huge songs that were coming out on the radio simultaneous to the movies. And this was Sierra trying to be Disney. As we go down here, Wipeout, one of my favorite all-time soundtracks. So great. Prophecy, this is a soundtrack that I had growing up. It was for a game. I don't believe the game is in DOS, but we do have Wing Commander in DOS, so I fudged it and went ahead and got it in there. Zeppelin is a great find. This soundtrack was not available. We were able to find someone who had it that was very kindly donated a copy of the tracks to us, so we were able to include it in this pack. As you can see, 75 soundtracks, it's the beginning. As we continue working through the pack, we'll find more. We're also trying to find games that had, for example, Monkey Island. Monkey Island did not have a Red Book audio soundtrack originally. It was all MIDI. Beeps and boops if you go back to the ad-lib and the Tandy. But it's also an iconic soundtrack. So we have made exceptions for games that did not have Red Book audio, but did have really, really well-known soundtracks. Fire that one up. Probably, for me, the most iconic theme song from any DOS game. I mean, Doom is up there, really close, but I never get tired of this one. Such a great build-up. This is a soundtrack that's a great example of all the DOS sound cards too. Apart from the CD version that we have playing right now, you've got PC speaker, Tandy 3 voice, the Game Blaster, also the Disney Sound Source, which was identical there, AdLib and Sound Blaster, the Roland MT32, and then eventually the Sound Canvas and General MIDI. And this soundtrack sounds amazing on any of those. It really astounds me. I'll go back sometimes and fire up the Game Blaster version because I really like the kind of crunchy noise it makes. It's great. I definitely recommend firing that game up and trying out all the different sound types just so you can check it out. I hope that you guys enjoy listening to the music as much as we have enjoyed finding it and adding it. If you have recommendations for soundtracks that we have left out, please let us know at the Discord. You can write me at my email address. Discord's by far the best way to get a hold of us. We did prioritize this on a scale of number one priority was Redbook audio games and actual standalone soundtracks. Priority 2, really well-known soundtracks, even if they're MIDI and they're recorded off the MIDI, but stuff that, Doom, for example, is a great... Doom never had a CD release with CD audio, but it's Doom. If we go play that... at Doom's Gate, I believe. There it is. I mean, what soundtrack of DOS would be complete without this, right? And then the third one is everything else. The third priority, I mean, we could go through and add thousands of soundtracks that are just recorded lines and snippets of music from thousands of games. The idea here is not to try to capture exports of every single game. It's to capture the big ones right now. Maybe over time we will get more granular and try to get down to that, but I don't want to bury these guys, the true soundtracks. And we have a lot of work to do with other projects as well, between our Apple II GS project, our ScumVM project. I've got a lot of time coming up. It's going to go into EXO Win3X. And then, of course, the most requested project of all would be 9X, a Windows 95-98 project. And while we're still waiting for the emulation to catch up, where we can do that, once it does, we have years of work ahead of us. I think right now we're sitting on 8 or 9 terabytes of data, just waiting for that project alone. So the point of this is not to get into all that, but rather to say the soundtracks that we currently have should be a great representation of DOS, and while I would love to add more, we will not be going and adding every single game. Hope you understand, but again, if you have any suggestions for us, let us know. I'd love to get them added. Thank you.